Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into the GSMC Relationship Podcast, as always brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Jessica Coe, and I'll be your host today. A lot has developed in the world since our last podcast, and I just want to say that I hope all of you are doing well, you are staying safe and staying healthy. And I know that my own city, I'm in the thick of it. I am in the middle of St. Paul, so right next door to a lot of protesting. But so far, I am so good, and just a lot of helicopters all day. all day today, all I've heard is helicopters. So hopefully that doesn't get caught in the recording in the background. But other than that, hopefully nothing develops. And we have just a great show for you today. I mean, it's always a great show in my opinion, but I'm a little bit biased. But today we're going to talk about coming into a new relationship after leaving an abusive one. And, you know, some ways that you as a partner, if you're entering a relationship with somebody who just left an abusive relationship, ways to deal with that as their partner. And then we're going to talk about the pill and its many, many, many misconceptions. I'm no doctor, so this is just research I have found and, done on my own. So keep that in mind. The problem with only listening and never talking. So that is what we're going to talk about in the third part of the show. And finally, we're going to wrap up. I'm going to share some of my favorite romantic dinners for you guys. So stick around for that, because this is the time to start new recipes and to try out new recipes. So with that, let's get into the show. There's so many topics on abuse that we can go on about it forever. And I feel like I've already brought up abuse a lot in my first few podcasts here, and I feel like every time I start the show, it's always with this really negative topic, but we gotta look into these and realize what's happening around us so that we can make the best relationship for us. And if you think about it, this isn't really a negative topic, because we're looking at new horizons and trying to better ourselves and better our relationship for what's to come. So we're looking at coming out of abusive relationships and entering a new healthy, hopefully healthy relationship. And there are just so many different levels of an abusive relationship, because abusiveness it can come in so many different forms. There's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, sexual, we've talked about that one on the show, coercive, psychological, financial. There's just, it comes in so many forms. And a lot of people don't even realize abuse, because it's kind of the most common one we know about it, and it's physical abuse, right? It's there, the bruises are there, the scars are there, but people forget that there's all these other ways of being abusive and harming somebody's life and essentially being a parasite in a relationship. And just as there's no good timing to leave a relationship and go into another one, there's no set amount of time that you have to take in order to heal yourself after leaving an abusive relationship and entering a new one. As long as, and we've talked about this, you have to be able to feel good about yourself and have that confidence in yourself again. So maybe if you aren't feeling that and you're looking into entering a new relationship, it's not the best time, because there's going to be traumas that you don't even realize are still stuck with you until you do pursue finding love again and doing the dating thing and enjoying romance. So the first step you need to take and consider is you need to ask yourself, are you ready to experience romance again and get into another relationship? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Anything can be hidden behind a person, and you have to be ready to take on that challenge again. And when you go into a new relationship and you don't have your own thoughts and feelings figured out after the emotional trauma, it's just going to leave you, it's just going to build up, and more and more will build up on you, especially if you enter another abusive relationship. So make sure just to take a minute and reflect, and if you need, seek counseling. It's perfectly acceptable, because you need to find a way to organize those thoughts and to overcome them. And if you don't feel comfortable with the idea of seeking counseling or seeing a therapist, find somebody in your life that you can trust and that you can go to, especially if things do start to get a little gloomy for you, or if you enter a new relationship and things aren't going quite as planned. You want to have that third-party view. Not necessarily somebody who's going to take sides or take bias, but just to be able to look and assess the situation without actually having the emotional attachment that you will to your partner. It's good to have that third party, keeping caution on the relationship and on you. So whether that's counseling, whether it's a parent, a good friend, just somebody that you feel comfortable talking to about maybe some very traumatizing things. And just know that you don't have to feel like you need to find somebody. And just as there's no time set that you should have to wait to enter a relationship or go, or that you shouldn't wait, you shouldn't feel the pressure of needing to find romance. Because if you start to pressure, whether it's pressure from other people or from yourself, expectations are something set by society, and you need to really consider your own self and make sure that you're healed enough to start a new relationship. But if you do find that you're ready, you find somebody and you're totally head over heels over them, you're like, yes, this is going to be great, I want to give it a shot. And I mean, that's absolutely wonderful. But just try not to go totally feet first into this pool of emotion and relationship and attachment, because if you do that, it's going to kind of be like dipping yourself into this hot bubbling oil bath of terrible memories or stress, and you might just feel tired. You might feel like you have to spend time with this new person, and it's going to become very complicated for you. So make sure to just go slowly into this new relationship. And try, if you do start seeing somebody, make sure that you're not spending all of your time with them. And I know it's very tempting, especially when we find that person and we just love being around them. It makes us so happy. Just make sure, at least at first, you're taking time, you're having your me time, you're getting away from them for a little while, because that'll really be a part of your self-healing and making sure that this relationship doesn't feel toxic to you or doesn't feel like you're pressured to be with them or you need to keep moving forward with this relationship. It'll create some bridges where you have room to breathe, which is really important when you're exiting a destructive relationship. And I mean, something that I've dealt with, because I have been in an abusive relationship, it took me 3 years, 5 boyfriends, until the 6th one, I finally felt comfortable in pursuing physical touch again, because I had been sexually abused. So you have to realize that this is going to take time, and you have to, one of my biggest things that helped me was discussing love language with my partner, and he made it clear to me, like, when he is going to touch me, that's just his way of showing love. He's not trying to pursue intercourse at that time. So if that's something you're dealing with, you definitely want to look into just kind of like what are their signs? What are the ways that they show love? And you want to be aware of that every person is different, that not all people are manipulative. And you have to take time to get to know them and to rebuild trust where trust should be given. And you know me, I'm always preaching communication between you and your partner, so let them know up front just some things that, it might not come up to you right away. It might, the memories might not come to you. It might be painful to remember. It might just be uncomfortable for you to talk about, whether it's just awkward or it's really just disturbing to you. But these are things that as you graduate to each level with your new partner, that brings you closer to whatever abuse that you were in with your previous partner. It's good to reflect on the similarities and tell your partner what isn't working for you. Tell them the things that remind you of those abusive experiences. And then it's likely that they're going to totally understand. And they're going to try to make it feel different for you, to make it feel better for you. And it's different for each thing. They might, for example, if it's physical, if you experienced like sexual abuse, you might be more sensitive and more uncomfortable with being touched physically. And you can communicate with your partner and say, like, this really reminds me of that. And whether it's them, just being a little bit less touchy or less touchy in certain places, or even if it's just them communicating with you, like, that's not what I'm expecting out of this. Or if it's financial abuse where they just stop, they understand that there's boundaries with financials. There's so many different ways that this can be communicated and reciprocated. So just make sure to take that time and discuss with your partner what does and doesn't work for you. But it is also important to keep in mind that, like, you might see things that will trigger responses in your previous abusive relationship. Although these were signs that abuse was about to ensue, you should also keep in mind that this person is probably very different, and it might not be a sign that they're going to start being abusive. It's just them being themselves. So it's important to stop living like you are always a victim and that they will always be above you, because relationships are very equal. And once you understand that, because although, yes, you will always have been a victim, that doesn't mean in every future relationship you're going to be a victim. So that's important to keep in mind as well. Coming up next, we're going to discuss some ways that you can help a new partner into your life who has experienced an abusive relationship, and that'll be up after the break, so we will see you shortly.
The GSMC Sex Podcast is a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet. Download the GSMC Sex Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you can find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hi, hello. Welcome back to the GSMC Relationship Podcast. This is Jessica Coe, and we just discussed some things to keep in mind when you're entering a new relationship after leaving an abusive one. And now we're going to flip the coin and talk about things that you can do if you're pursuing a relationship with somebody who was previously in an abusive relationship. And that doesn't have to mean that it was the relationship before you. It can be years before, it could be 2 relationships ago. Keep in mind, a lot of people have different reset times, different times where they take to heal themselves. They can experience 1 week of healing and be ready to get back out in the dating world. They can experience 10 years of healing, and abusive relationships can be very traumatic. So one thing to keep in mind is that this person may have not dated in a very long time, or they might have, but just keep in mind that it's different for everybody, but also realize that these relationships are traumatic and that it's going to take time. So if you are friends with somebody and you think you want to pursue a relationship with them, or if you're looking to date them, coworker, whatever it may be, but you are aware of this previous abusive relationship, don't pester them into starting a new relationship. Please be patient with them because it's going to take them some time and it's different for everybody. So just keep that in mind. If you really are serious about this person, you can wait for them to be ready and wait till it's a better time if they seem uncomfortable with the idea of dating. So let's say you do luckily get into a relationship and you two are just starting out. What are some ways that you can try to be sensitive about this new relationship you guys have where she or he is coming from an abusive relationship from before? And this can be very tricky to navigate because it takes a lot of patience on your part. You may be doing something that you intend to be good or kind, and they may receive it as something that is, like, they may see it as what was a trigger in that previous partner, and that will be a warning sign to them. Even though it seems perfectly normal to you, or you're just trying to do something good, they might get really nervous about it, or it might take them aback. So just be patient and realize that there's definitely some trauma probably still there, and things that seem normal or kind to you are not to them. It has this whole other aggressive meaning for them. And just keep in mind, it's not you, it's their past. And sometimes there's even cases where the person is just, they're so fearful of having this new connection and having a connection where they're close to somebody else and they start to rely on somebody else. And they take on that fight or flight mode where their brain is just telling them, it's sending out sparks, like, just end it. Do anything to sabotage this relationship. And if they start doing that, sit down and talk to them and say, like, why are you trying to do this behavior? And what is worrying you about the relationship? Because that's something, and it's so simple just to take some time. It doesn't have to be a very long and argumentative process. It just takes some time, sit down with them and have that discussion. And realize that acting out and reacting negatively and showing anger and frustration will most likely kind of put your new partner into this sense of fear, and they might shut down very fast. And they shut down because they're nervous about acting or speaking and doing something that will upset you. So if you show that anger, especially at first, they're just going to completely, just clear all emotion, not talk, barely do anything, and just try to stay away from you. And if that happens, you need to show them that either you're not angry at you or you're not angry at them, or just talk it out and try to remain calm and not show those frustrations, because for people that have been abused, anger is almost always something that they've experienced. And I want to say that almost almost everybody at some point in their life will experience some sort of abuse in a relationship. So this can be for a lot of different relationships as well. And that part of that communication too is taking time to talk to them about love language. As I talked about in the previous part before the break, I did mention that it's important to communicate love language so that you can overcome some of those obstacles. So make sure that you are suggesting that the both of you do that so that both of you can understand the ways that you show love, and for them to understand that when you do certain things, it's not a beginning to be manipulative or be abusive. And with that reassurance, make sure that you're checking in on them every so often and just letting them know, whether it's asking, hey, how do you feel about us? And especially if you're actually committed to one another, your girlfriend and boyfriend or whatever have you, you're saying like, hey, how does the relationship feel to you? And when you say that, don't just ask that robotically, like actually listen to what they say, take their opinion in stride, and just say, you want to have that honesty, you want to lay out that honesty, because relationships, a lot of people have such a hard time talking about it, especially people that have a problem, and especially people who come from a problematic relationship and who have been essentially punished for speaking out about their own opinion on the relationship. So make sure that you're valuing their opinion on how the relationship is and if there's any changes that you can make. Also, have patience. Whether you want to know everything about the previous relationship or you're not, you really don't care if you know or don't know, it is vital that you are patient and you take the time to actually either let your partner take their time in coming to you and talking about their previous relationship, because maybe it's something that they're not comfortable at the time with talking about, or maybe it's something that's just awkward for them to talk about. And on the same side of things, make sure that when they do come to talk to you about it, there's no time that's too soon or too late. Just let them go at their own pace. Don't try to push it. But when they do come to talk to you, make sure that you're listening and try to take in and absorb all the details, because it may be something that you can remember throughout your relationship. And if you start doing things that are similar, you can understand why certain actions may trigger your partner to be nervous or to be scared or just might totally turn them off. And of course, with that, remember to understand boundaries. Remember that certain things may seem too fast to them or too much. And just respecting those boundaries and understanding that you may seem invasive to them, things that aren't invasive to you. There's going to be a time when either they do come around or it's just something that they completely are against, and that's totally okay. Everybody is different, and if this relationship is going to work for the two of you, you need to respect those boundaries. And this is kind of a weird one, but try to get out of your own head. If you're somebody that usually thinks mostly about themselves or you just think highly of yourself, there's not really any problem with that. You are your first priority, and I've preached that so much in other podcasts, but in these kind of relationships, yes, you want to maintain that Venn diagram, that even equality of yourself. You have your own life, they have their own life, but you come together in a relationship. You also want to keep an eye out for them and just, take moments to look at your relationship, because they may not always say what's on their mind. Really think about them, and, if you have the spare time, just think about what they're thinking. Try to put yourself in their shoes and look out for them. Pay attention to their needs and wants, and you don't always have to appeal to them, and it's not important. It's not going to end your relationship, but it'll really help them in the end, because they are too trying to overcome this horrible thing that happened in the past. And when they're constantly worried about that, and if you don't reciprocate that you are thinking about them even when you're not actively talking to them or or just interacting with them, it can really help and bring a sense of security to them to remind them that they are on your mind. So taking little steps to just show them that you're not the only person you're thinking about. You're not the only person in your head. You are thinking about them as well. So hopefully, if this is something that you need to think about, or if you do find yourself in a relationship with somebody who has been in a different abusive relationship, hopefully these tips can help you out. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask me on Instagram or Twitter. I will be there to answer any questions you have. We are going to take a quick break, and we will then talk about the pill and its many misconceptions. So we'll see you very, very shortly.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello, welcome back. We just finished discussing the topic of relationships and starting a new one with somebody, or if you are somebody who has been in a sexually abusive relationship before. So now we are going to move on to the pill and what it is and what are some misconceptions and myths about it. So the pill, otherwise known as oral contraceptives or birth control. There are so many rumors that have always been circulating the pill and what it does to women, what it doesn't do, and how effective it is. And what I do know is that it is a hormonally active pill that contains one of two things. There's two different types. There's either one that contains the hormones estrogen and progesterone. I am not a doctor. And there's also ones that contain only progestogen. Now, depending on what you are taking as a contraceptive, they are either 92% effective, and it can go all the way to 99% effective. So keep in mind, there is at least 1% chance that you are going to have a little miracle baby, or that you're going to take other measures to not have a little miracle baby. And usually what happens is you take them for about 21 days, and then you take 1 week of a sugar pill, or you just don't take them, and then you open up a new package and you start again. And for most people, I believe birth control is free. And that totally depends on your health insurance. But there are also other kinds that you just take you have a package of 28 of them, and you just keep on taking them. Every package you get, you don't take that break. But regardless, you have to take them daily, and it's recommended to take them at the same time for the best way for them to work. And the way that they work is they actually thicken cervical mucus, and then it blocks sperm penetration. So there's a little bit of biology and body science for you. Now, when it does that, it actually causes periods to be less long and less heavy. So the pill can also be a wonderful tool for decreasing menstrual cramps and regulating your period. And I've also heard that it will prevent ovarian and endometrial cancer as well, and some other infections that can happen in the fallopian tubes. Now, just because that, like, a birth control pill it does protect against having babies 92 to 99% of the time, it also does not, I will repeat that, it does not protect against STDs or STIs. And the best way for you to protect one of those is to use a condom and use that protection and be aware of those things as well. Now, unfortunately, taking birth control pills can cause some unwanted side effects. Not with everybody, but these do happen, and this can come as a form of headache. It's very troubling to know whether or not it makes you gain or lose weight. And what happens is the pill will make you bloat, so you may appear rounder than you actually are, but in actuality, you're not taking on any extra fat. You're not ruining your diet by taking birth control. It's really just holding water in your stomach, and it's all water weight. Now, some of the weight loss can come from the side effect of nausea. And a lot of the time when we have nausea, if we have it really badly, if we're very prone to that, it might cause vomiting. Or if we have nausea, we might just be deterred from eating. So it does have the ability to cause weight loss as well. Now, it is true that because birth control has all these wonderful hormones that I can't pronounce inside of it, it does decrease acne, and it can help a lot of people, a lot of women, especially younger women and teenagers, take away some of the red that pops up and the horrible whiteheads and blackheads that all women deal with at some point in their life. They've probably had one. So birth control can help with acne as well because it has all those hormones going through it. If you have an iron deficiency, you may want to consider adding the pill to your morning routine or night routine because this will also help with that. Now, just because you stop taking the pill, and a lot of women experience having their period return in different ways and at different times. It might be infrequent, it might be more frequent, it might take a couple months to return, but just keep in mind that even though your period isn't returning, you can get pregnant right away. And which is great if that's what you intend to do. But just because you don't have your period does not mean that you're not able to get pregnant. So some women have different reports of whether or not the pill has increased or decreased their libido. And having that extra barrier of protection, having the idea of not getting pregnant on your mind can definitely send women into a higher sex drive just because they're not sitting there worried about the repercussions of having sex. But on the other hand, remember that they're decreasing testosterone. The pill will decrease testosterone in a woman. So it's also totally possible that it is going to decrease your libido and even make it harder to climax. But there's a way that you can get around this little obstacle. You can discuss that with your doctor or with whoever is prescribing your birth control, and you can try to find one that does work for you instead, that will get around that little dip of libido. But if you do have the idea that you are losing sex drive, just give it about 3 months-ish, is about 90 days is the time that you want to take to get into using a new pill before you can really decide on if it's having that effect or if it's something else in your life. And, that being said, keep in mind, it may take you a couple of times just to find a pill that works for you, or maybe birth control altogether just does not work for you, because every woman is different, and you're going to find maybe that it leads to a lot of nausea for you, or for myself personally, it leads to so much bloating, and I hate it. But it's different for everybody, and there's always different measures that you can take, different contraceptive things that you can use. And those of you that have children or that have a daughter and they're coming to you and saying like, hey mom, hey dad, I really have bad acne. I need birth control because I read that that's going to help clear it up. I really would not take into account that they are lying or they're trying to get birth control for sexual needs instead of just for acne, because this is something that will help. It'll help with acne. It'll decrease pain in periods, which any woman listening who has had their period probably totally understands the horrible pain of cramps that come with Aunt Flo every month. It is not fun. And another not fun thing about it is the irregularity of it. When it comes naturally, it can be the major flow that comes with it. So keep in mind that birth control is used it's used for more than just preventing birth. It is also used for different methods that can help. And like I said before, low iron deficiency. If you need, and even I've read that there's relation to bone thinning. I'm so sorry, to bone thinning. So those are some ways that can actually help you. And just keep in mind, if you have a daughter who's coming to you and saying, like, I need to use this, maybe take into consideration birth control as a way to prevent those symptoms. And the actual effectiveness of birth control does depend, that 92 to 99% range does depend on what time of day you're taking it. Not necessarily on the time of day, but if you're taking it regularly at the same time every day. Your percentages go down the more time that's missed in between. If you miss a full day, it can go all the way down to, I think, 91%. So keep in mind that regularity is very important if you want to be preventative. But now we're going to talk about some ways that the pill is not all that it seems. So up next after this break, we will talk about that, and I will see you very shortly.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hello, welcome back, and thank you for sticking around for this segment of the podcast. We just discussed some ways that birth control is beneficial, some things you need to know about it, and now we're going to talk about the many misconceptions that surround it. What lies and rumors about $1 billion market? Yes, it is true. There are things that you have heard about the birth control pill, contraception, that you have been lied to about or misinformed about. Now, keep in mind, I have no qualms against the birth control industry. I am completely neutral here. I personally don't take it, and here's why. I went to the doctor And I'm actually upset with the doctor, not with birth control. But I went to the doctor, and I have not had a period in 3 or 4 years. So they said you need to start taking this and it'll return. Now, what actually is happening, I found out way later on after 1 month of taking it and hating it so much. I was so bloated, it hurt. But later on, I found out that birth control does, yes, it might cause what is called pill bleeds. These are not periods. And unfortunately, when people do take birth control to bring back their period, it starts to disrupt the signals that are sent from the ovaries into the brain and back with hormones of FSH and LH. So not only are you just getting this pill bleed and not an actual period, you're getting signals missent inside of your body, which is going to cause effects, especially later on. But just because you're taking this pill doesn't mean that you're ovulating. And if you're not actually, if ovulation isn't happening, then it's not an actual period. Because the whole point of it is to shed the uterine lining, and that was to fertilize an egg. So if that's not happening, then this isn't an actual period. And why are we lied to about this? Well, it's not a lie. Doctors actually believe that is true because way back in history, in the 1950s, not that far back, contraception was completely illegal. It was totally outlawed. And what they had to do for women to have that protection was they prescribed birth control under this disguise of being helpful for issues such as not having periods. So people were taking, quote unquote, the guise was that birth control was actually helping women have children because they weren't having their periods. So what do? They take birth control to get their periods. But in actuality, what was happening is doctors were able to prescribe women these pills that they could not otherwise get because it was illegal. Now, another myth about the pill is that it actually makes you gain weight, which is not necessarily true because, as I mentioned in the last part, it actually just makes you feel bloated. And what's happening is the estrogen just causes kind of that cling to water, and you'll start to feel bloated. But on the other side, what might happen is the progestin that is found in many pills will increase. It'll actually make you feel hungrier. And that, of course, will result in weight gain if you do give in to those cravings. And that's so easy to overcome because you can switch to a lower dosage. Now, because this is $1 billion market, the birth control pill, it's been researched so much, and there's so many experts on it, and there's science to back up and research to back up that it is totally safe and it's not going to cause any birth defects in the future. Keep in mind, around 151 million women have reported that they use the pill, and this is worldwide. Now, just as the pill cannot start fertility again, it can also not stop fertility. It does not cause infertility, and fertility is not, as quoted by Jessica Ash. You can find her on Instagram at Jessica Ash Wellness. She's an amazing women's nutritionist. She quotes, "Infertility is not a light switch. It cannot be turned on and off. So long-term, using the pill, you're not going to be infertile just from that. There are other things that can happen in your body, but using the pill is not supposed to cause infertility." Also, there's a lot of people out there that believe that your body needs a break from the hormonal contraception or taking birth control. And this isn't necessarily true so much as what you should be doing is it's suggested around every 15 years. Check in with your doctor, let them know it's been 15 years that you've been taking your birth control, and you just want to check and see if it's time to switch over to a different kind of pill. Because there are so many different ways and forms that the pill can come in. Now, although it is a sign in women that when you have your period, that means you're healthy and you are able to have babies and you're fertile, it's not unhealthy to use birth control to skip your period. It's like totally safe to use it continuously, and periods can be the reason that you should not, that you have that sugar pill, that you have that 7-day period where you do let yourself ovulate. The reason that is so that you can track your fertility. But even though that is an option for many women and they do choose to do that, it's not totally necessary. And this isn't just a one-time-a-year thing. Like, yes, if you want, you could skip over your period using birth control for a specific month if your period happens to land on a week where you're vacationing and maybe you want to wear a cute swimsuit and you don't want to wear a tampon because those things can be a pain in the butt sometimes. But instead, you can also use it for years on end. It'll be just fine. So yes, it's true that your period may not return for, it could be a couple of months, it could be a couple of weeks, and it might even return in like this weird pattern that you're not used to after you stop taking birth control. And that is totally common, happens to everyone, you shouldn't be worried about it. But just because you don't have your period, like I stated before, does not mean that you are not fertile. That being said, even though you have just stopped taking the pill, it doesn't mean that it doesn't need that much time to leave your system. It takes approximately a day, 1 to 2 days to totally leave your system. So keep that in mind, because if you do look to, have sex right after you take the pill and you think it's still in your system, it's most likely not. Just so don't risk that one. There's a reason you're instructed to take it every day and even at similar times. And the pill does not start working immediately after you start taking it. It's different for everybody, especially based on where you're at with your menstrual cycle, but just keep in mind that you're not going to be immediately protected. It's not pop a pill, instant immunity. Keep that in mind. If you want instant immunity, the best way to go is wearing a condom. But yeah, keep in mind, it takes a couple of days, and if you are looking, it can take up to a week for protection. And if you're taking birth control for a different condition, whether it's acne, whether it's heavy periods and cramping, keep in mind this is going to take up to 3 months for that to kick into effect. So give the pill some time because it is not immediate and it does take time. But they are not all 100% effective. Like I stated before, the lowest percent is around 92% to 91%. And that means you are still going to have that little percentage that keeps you from being protected. Now, it is possible that birth control can elevate certain risks of different cancers, specifically breast cancer and cervical cancer, but it doesn't directly cause cancer. The pill itself, just by taking it, is not an exact, you're definitely going to have cancer or you're risked with having cancer. It can just elevate other things that lead to cancer. So keep in mind, it's not a direct lead to cancer. And finally, you cannot use birth control as a way to go through abortion. That doesn't work, and hormonal birth control just doesn't cancel a baby. Once it's there until you use actual forms of abortion. So hopefully these myths that have been debunked for you guys is helpful in the future, and maybe you learned something new. But after the break, we're going to come back and talk about issues that arise from only listening and not ever actually talking in a relationship. So we'll have a short break, and I will see you very, very, very soon.
Are you looking to learn more about the latest trends from the fitness world? Are you confused by all of the different trends that are out there? The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place for you. The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place to come for people of all skill and interest levels. Join us as we explore the latest trends in the fitness world. Does that new exercise really work? Should I try yoga? Whatever your question, chances are good you'll find an answer on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Relationship Podcast. We just finished discussing some of the facts and some of the myths about birth control pills and different things that the media has rumored about what happens when you do take contraceptive pills. So now we're going to get into the art of talking. Yes, we have discussed many times that communication is key, and it is widely preached and widely respected that you should be a good listener in your relationship. But what if all you're doing is listening? And that's what I'd like to talk about, is the problems that will arise from just listening and some ways that you can stop just listening. So one thing is that communication. Oh my gosh, what? Communication is key. That's right. So when you're in a relationship, you need to talk. It's not all about you receiving information from a partner. You need to express your own opinions. And some issues that can arise is your partner feeling like you don't have commitment to the relationship. Maybe they don't feel like you aren't committed. You don't have an opinion because you don't feel like it's worth having an opinion. So by always listening and never actually putting in the effort to make your own decisions within the relationship or showing and sharing how you feel, it's going to cause a feeling of animosity in your partner and make them confused and conflicted and thinking, okay, so clearly they don't actually care what happens in this relationship. And there's also times when if you don't communicate your feelings, it's going to just build on itself. All of your negative feelings are going to keep building, and your partner is not going to. So, for example, if your partner is doing something that you dislike, there's something that they keep doing and they don't realize it's a problem, right? And you don't ever mention it because you're thinking, oh, it's better just not to say anything and let it pass. But it doesn't pass because this is who your partner is, and they don't know any better because you're not communicating with them and telling them that what they're doing is bothering you. So you continue on in this relationship and it just builds, and you try to dismiss it, but it still is there in your memory. It still bothers you. So it builds and builds and builds, and you're bottling up all these feelings, and one day you just can't take it anymore, and all of your emotions just explode, and you're suddenly this volcano of anger and aggression and frustration because your partner has been doing this thing that it's so obvious that they shouldn't be doing it to you, but not to your partner because clearly then they wouldn't have been doing it. So at that point, it just completely destroys your relationship. Sometimes couples will experience a breakup, and in the end, it's because one partner didn't bring up an issue beforehand, and they let it go too long until they just grew complete animosity towards their partner, and they found things that they hated about them that they probably never would have found if they had just decided to communicate with them in the first place. For example, I was seeing somebody for about, I think 4 or 5 months, and we never had an argument, never had any problems. He never, expressed that he was upset with me and never angry with me. we just had no problems that we ever brought up with each other. And one day he messaged me. He actually didn't talk to me for a whole day and then texted me at 1 a.m. and said that he wanted to break up with me. And when I asked for a reason, he told me a week later that it was because I was selfish. And I had never felt like I was being selfish in the relationship. And I never felt like I had done anything wrong because whatever, and to this day, I don't know what it was, because generally I was very kind and I was trying to do things for him. So something clearly had bothered him that he never expressed with me. And that completely ruined our relationship. But if he had taken the time to communicate it with me, what he was upset with, I would have taken the measures to try to save our relationship by changing those things or making amends. So that's another way that, by only listening all the time and never actually communicating your feelings, you can not only be impartial to the relationship, now you're destroying it. You're adding fuel to a fire. Something else that can happen if you're just constantly listening to your partner and never actually sharing your opinions, you start to become the therapist, and you're receiving information and maybe, giving advice here and there, but you're receiving all the information and you're never sharing your own issues. So when your partner inevitably will come to you for consulting or your opinion or just consulence, you're going to eventually just start to feel like a therapist, and you're going to feel like the professional. And you're coming from this higher point of view, and not only does that kind of change how you view your relationship, you also lose the nerve to go to them for problems, because you're seeing yourself now, and perhaps even they're seeing you as the wise old man, the know-all, and the all-knowing. And it just creates this feeling of, okay, now I can't go to them because I'm supposed to know the most. So by not communicating your feelings, you're also cutting off chances in the future to communicate. And it's not only you as a listener that can be the problem here. It can also create problems in your partner where they begin to take on this form of feeling like they're more empowered because they have the decision making. They have the speech skills in the relationship, and they're the ones running the relationship. They're wearing the pants. So it really destroys the balance of your relationship, because you can see yourself on a scale, an even scale, where one side, if it dips too much, it becomes uneven and unbalanced. And you need to have a balanced scale where both of you are sharing and you're both talking and listening and just understanding that both of you have problems and neither of you are perfect. And if you don't, one of you can, or both of you really can, begin to think of yourselves and blow the image of yourself in your own mind out of proportion and start to think of yourself as higher than your partner, when really both of you are generally, we are equals, right? And in a relationship, you should be equals. So by not communicating, you're completely throwing off the balance of your relationship, which can just totally increase the ego of one of you. And that will definitely start to create a lot of tension between the two of you. Now, there's also issues that arise when your partner asks something of you, or perhaps they give you specific instructions for something, or they tell you something and you don't completely understand, but to avoid looking like an idiot to your partner and being seen as somebody who, okay, you don't understand the simplest of things, now it's, okay, they asked me to do something and I don't understand and I'm going to let them down. So you want to keep in mind that just by saying, I don't totally understand, this doesn't make sense to me, you can get that information from your partner, and it creates more of an understanding between the two of you. It creates a bridge so that you and your partner can communicate and really understand each other's thoughts and opinions. But if you don't do that, you're going to understand your partner less and less and just be completely confused in your relationship and feel like you don't even know this person. And this rule doesn't only apply to in-person conversations or over the phone. You really want to consider this when you're texting as well, because let's face it, we're in the 21st? Oh my goodness, we are in the 21st century. We're in the 21st century, everyone. That means that most of us are texting our partners by now. It's like the number one way to communicate when you're not together, or maybe even when you are together. Depends on who you are. But if you're texting each other, you still want to be communicating and not just receiving information. You don't want to say, yep, well, your partner is sending you paragraphs. You want to respond with things that are thoughtful and actually use your voice, even if you're using your thumbs. So those are some problems that will arise most likely if you choose to only listen and never communicate. So we're going to take a quick break, and then coming up after that, I'm going to give you guys my favorite dinner recipes for a nice romantic dinner. And that's going to be great because it's quarantine for a lot of people right now, so you can experience some cooking, get in the kitchen. You can even make them together. So have a good break, and we'll be right back.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hello, and welcome back to the Relationship Podcast. My name is Jessica, and thank you for sticking around for our very final segment where I'm going to tell you guys about some of my favorite recipes to create and master for a romantic dinner with your loved one. And there are so many great recipes for you to make, especially now with quarantine. You have lots of extra time. And you can be a little bit more adventurous because you're kind of stuck at home, and a lot of restaurants are closed, unfortunately. So here are some that I highly recommend for you to either make for or with your partner. So, do you ever have those nights where you're like, man, I need a pizza? And you and your partner are like sitting down, you're going to watch some TV, you're going to have a Netflix marathon or a Hulu marathon, or just sit there in your PJs, you're just ready to chill. Well, you are sitting there and you're like, I cannot call Domino's again this week. I cannot call Pizza Hut for the third time this month because my waistline is already booming. Well, it's probably not. You're probably just looking fantastic. But there is another way to go about and actually have pizza that's not super bad for you. And guess what? It's a lot more fun to do together. Now, I'm not downing ordered pizza because pizza delivery, perfect. But if you make it together, it is one of the funnest things to create together. And even if you make it for just by yourself and for your partner, they're going to be so blown away about how tasty it is. And you can buy crusts like at Target, at Cub Foods, whatever have you. But what about making your own dough? It's so easy. Most people have the ingredients right in their own kitchen. And all you need is active dry yeast. That's usually what you make with bread and and that kind of thing. You can use some sugar. It's about just a teaspoon if you choose not to. It's not a big deal. You do not need sugar to complete this recipe. Just use some flour. Technically, bread flour would be the best for this situation. A little bit of oil. Olive oil has the best taste for this, and some salt and a little bit of water. And if you mix all those together, and I think you just need an oven to heat it around 450 degrees. It only takes a couple of minutes just to let it sit in the bowl. You can, if you want to make it a little bit less messy, you can choose and opt to bake the bread or bake the crust in the oven for a few minutes before you do add all the toppings on. But okay, let's get to the toppings. We are going to do some amazing tomato sauce. This is regular pureed tomato. Like a can of it from the store is totally fine. You can add another can of diced tomatoes. And then here's my secret. Okay, ready? This is a secret. Goat's milk yogurt. It is so good in pizza. If you add that to the sauce, you're going to get this nice rosé sauce, and oh my gosh, you're going to just have such a great time with your partner. Like, you get to pick out all of your different toppings. You start to learn, especially if you're a newer couple, you learn what you like on each other's pizza, which, let's face it, that's a totally important topic to know about your partner. And you also get an idea of, hey, what kind of cheese do they like? Do they like pepper jack? Do they like mild cheddar? And it makes for a more thoughtful relationship, especially when one of you does all the grocery shopping, or if you go grocery shopping without your partner. You start to get an idea of what they like. So, and it's also a fun way to experiment with new things on your pizza. And it's just a lot of fun because pizza is such an easy platform for you to just slap anything on it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So that's something you'll really enjoy to make with your partner. Now we will go from Italy to Japan and try making sushi together. It is a little bit, it's a lot more difficult than pizza in the way that it requires a little bit more special tools, and you have to be very careful about the grade of sashimi that you get, or just the, raw fish. It needs to be edible and from a trusted source. Now keep that in mind. There's different places you can go to get those things, and the best way that I like to overcome that obstacle is by buying smoked salmon. That's a great way to still have that raw texture, but have a safe grade of raw fish and not be food poisoned. So what you can do is get a rolling mat. It's a bamboo mat that you use to roll sushi or whatever have you. And then those are generally pretty inexpensive as well. And all you need is seaweed, just dried seaweed and rice. And then you can add whatever you like into the roll. But it's really fun because it's so simple, and it makes for, you can start to make your own personalized rolls that you and your partner will enjoy together, because it is something that's generally shared. It makes for a very light dinner, and it's so romantic because sushi is such an intricate food, and it's very delicate. So hopefully that'll be something really fun and new for you and your partner to try. Now, if you've never tried it, I had not had it until this past year was my first time trying it, but it's really fun to do at home hot pot. If you've never had hot pot before, it is this kind of, it's so hard to explain. You have literally a pot of boiling soup base. And then inside it and alongside it, you have all these dishes, and they're things that you're going to put inside of the soup base. This can be meats, seafood, different vegetables, a lot of the time fish cakes, and there's so much you can put inside of it, but it's so delicious, and it's really fun because it's more of a social experience as opposed to just eating dinner quietly. You have fun because you're actively cooking it. You're putting things in at different times, and you're trying different combinations of sauces and different combinations of foods together just within the same dish. And a lot of these things you can actually get at like just an Asian grocery store, if you have an Asian mart near you, they'll have hot pot. And if you can't find it, ask somebody, because there's most definitely hot pot mix. It takes just the hot pot mix, and then you can pick out whatever ingredients you want. Usually it's, heartier vegetables like sliced carrots. Carrots work great, different types of potato, Napa cabbage, corn, especially sweet potato is really good in there, and sliced lotus, onion as well, and different types of squash are just so fantastic in there. You can also do different meats, such as, a really popular one is beef tongue, shrimp, tripe, and things like fish cakes, fish balls, and tofu. Those are just some great things to put in there, and especially the mushrooms. You got to have your shiitake and enoki mushrooms. They're going to be so good in there. And there's so many different ways to go about the combinations of food that you're eating, the different sauces that you can put it in, and really anything can go in there. So that's what makes it such a fun experience for you and your partner. You get to try a lot of new things and experiment a lot of new things, and especially if you've never tried hot pot, it's just such a fun way to actually eat dinner with your partner. It's more of like a social experience as opposed to just a dinner. Now, moving not so far away, I have one of my favorite things that I like to eat when I'm abroad is it's Korean barbecue, or samgyeopsal. And it's different types of meat that you just throw it on a grill or throw it on a pan, whatever works for you. And you cut it into very small pieces, and then you wrap it up in a piece of lettuce, such as like a romaine heart. That works great. There's also Korean red lettuce. That works great as well. And if you can find it, perilla leaves also work great when you add that on top of the leaf. So do the 2 leaves. You add a piece of, usually it's like something, it's similar to bacon. It's like a thicker bacon will work just fine. But if you want to be very exact, I would go for pork belly, or if you're, a little bit, you want to go on the lighter side, try chicken. You can do even seafood in this case. Anything goes, but generally it's a red meat, like cow meat. And then you add that to the lettuce. You can throw in raw garlic, gochujang, or it's kind of a spicy pepper sauce that comes from Korea, as well as a piece of kimchi. Just works great in there. And I highly recommend that if you do this, you do actually cook the kimchi along with the meat, because it tastes so great. You ball that up inside the lettuce and you just shove it in your mouth like a savage. And it kind of creates this fun, kind of embarrassing eating experience for you and your partner. And it's kind of cute, because this is another one where you have to actively cook it. And generally what happens is one partner will cook it and the other one will make the food. So they add the lettuce and everything, and they make the bundled up wraps of lettuce and meat, and then they make it for their partner as well. And you just kind of shove it in their face, and it's really cute. It's an intimate way of eating, and it's something different to try. So I highly recommend that as well. And my final recommendation is, this is not so much a recipe such as a suggestion for you and your partner to try out while cooking, but what you do essentially is you take things from each of your cultural backgrounds, and each of your food preferences. So, for example, my boyfriend and he is a total meat eater, and I'm a pescatarian. That means I only eat fish and veggies, but no chicken, no beef, anything like that. And what we do is we take a big bowl, like a big mixing bowl, and we each pick out vegetables from our fridge, and we chop those up and throw them into the bowl. And then each of us take our own time selecting different ingredients to add, such as different seasonings, different sauces, and they come from both our cultural backgrounds. And then you mix those together and you lay them out on a pan along with whatever kind of protein you want. Oftentimes I'll do white fish and then he'll do chicken. And you add those to the pan, and you can season those separately, or you can season them in the bowl, whatever you want. And then you bake those. Usually we do around 25 minutes. And then we eat it straight off the pan. It's just a sheet pan recipe. We bring it to the table, lay it out on the pan, and eat straight from the pan. And it's just a really interesting way to mix the cultures, and it almost creates your relationship in your food. So it's kind of a funny way to look at it, but it is a way for you to bring your relationship to the kitchen and to your mouths, and now you're eating something that both of you are enjoying. And hopefully it works out well for you. Sometimes it's a big disaster, but for the most part, it actually tends to be delicious, and it's a really fun way just to experiment and try these new fusion foods, and you're fusing your two cultures together too. Whatever you come from, or even if you come from the same culture, you're fusing your two taste buds together. So it's very interesting, and I highly recommend trying that out if you and your partner want to cook together. So thank you so much for listening to me ramble on about different recipes you can try out. I hope that you learn something or do get the chance to try them during your stay-home experience. That being said, I am still sitting here inside my home. I have not left in like 2 days, and it's been a lot of sirens, a lot of helicopter sounds, and just a little bit of yelling. So hopefully not too many sirens and helicopter sounds made their way over to the recording, but hopefully you are all staying safe and being happy and healthy as always. And be sure to try something new this week. If you are looking into having a new relationship, be sure that you're being safe and careful and cautious, because now not only do we have the pandemic, we also have protesting going on. So just be careful about where you're going and how close you two are getting, because things do spread. I'm talking about COVID, not STDs, but both of those spread. So be careful. And thank you for listening to the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am so thankful for all of those of you who do subscribe. And if you could please write us a review, I would be so grateful. Also, check out our Twitter and our Instagram and our Facebook. I will be taking any questions and many recommendations from Twitter and Instagram. And thank you again. Stay home, stay safe, and remember to just have a fabulous week. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.